Hello and welcome to a 17th Shard interview. I'm Ben, also known as Overlord Jeebus, and I'm here with the president of Brotherwise, Johnny O'Neill. How you doing, Johnny?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
No worries. So I've got you on today to talk about the Stormlight Premium Miniatures Kickstarter that you guys launched last week. So you guys were launched with a target of 50k. And when I most recently checked, I've just checked now, I've just pulled it up, you're closing on $2 million. So how are you feeling, Johnny? How's it going?
I've had a really good week.
I can imagine.
I mean, I knew that Stormlight fans would show up for this, but when we ran various financial scenarios for this, this is better than I allowed myself to hope for in my target financial scenario. So it is, because making these, is definitely a business. We want to make sure that we can do all of these in a way where we're able to afford for all the sculpting and the tooling and that side of things. And I had a little bit of nervousness, oh, what if it doesn't go as well as I think? What if the overlap between Stormlight fans and miniature fans is smaller than I'm guessing? And it's turned out to be great. And part of that's because Stormlight fans are the best fans in the world and will sign up for anything. But it's also, I think, because people are really liking them. And I'm really excited to see where we go over the next 30 days.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah. How quickly did you guys reach that target? It was minutes, right?
Yeah, I think it was something like 5 minutes. And what was really cool was, getting to $1 million within the first 6 to 8 hours of the campaign. And at this point, I'm not even really looking at the dollar value. I'll check it every, a couple times a day maybe, but it's something where it's at this point, I'm like, whew, all right, we've made what we'd hoped to make.
Yeah.
And, given the way Kickstarters work, we've got, we'll go up from here, but we probably won't double what we have right now. I would guess that we'd end 2.5. I don't know. It's very hard to do these things, but but that's enough to do a number of things. It's enough to pay for this and pay for the big creative development project that really this was there to support. It's enough to help create awesome artwork for the next Stormlight thing we're working on. And it's enough to sort of set up Brotherwise as a business to be able to keep growing and be the kind of support that Dragonsteel needs us to be over the next few years.
Fantastic. I have been asked by many members of the 17th Shard for more artwork to share because they have been loving what they've seen so far. So if you have anything you want to share, I can throw it up on screen.
Sounds good. Yeah, let's share some stuff on screen and give you a look. Both, I think there's the behind the scenes aspect of this is really cool. I know as a fan, even if I wasn't interested in the collectibles at all, I would be there, put in a $1 pledge and just be following the Kickstarter updates and things because it's cool to see how all these things come together and cool to see the official guidelines for how things are supposed to look. And some of the behind the scenes of how we zeroed in on that. Kaladin is a good example where that was one where we really wanted to get Kaladin right. And Kaladin's got a lot of unique aspects to how he's supposed to look and some things about his description that are trickier to pull off. And we're really happy with how our official Kaladin model as represented in both the miniatures and the statue has turned out.
Excellent. Did you want to give a bit more information on that process about how your team worked with Dragonsteel and Isaac's team to kind of put all this together? How'd that back and forth look?
Yeah, I think that kind of goes back to the original partnership with Dragonsteel, which was Call to Adventure, the Stormlight Archive, where part of what we were excited about there was the kind of realization that, hey, because they said yes to this project, we're going to get to work on over 100 pieces of artwork set in Roshar. And, that was for me as a huge fan, half my motivation for doing the project, being able to
is putting cool art together.
Yeah, and I thought in my head, and the sort of Dragonsteel team confirmed this in subsequent discussions. This idea that some of the imagery that's there is going to be the imagery that they bring into Hollywood meetings and creative development stuff for future entertainment projects. And I love the idea that an image like the one behind you there,
Yep.
or an image like Petar Penev's Ancestral Shard, Elokar image. Those are things that are able to be on the walls in these entertainment meetings, and that was a really cool motivation for me. So when I first started talking to Isaac Stewart about doing miniatures, it was very much in this context of, hey, this could be a really cool opportunity to define the look of these characters in ways that you're going to be able to apply to other things. And I honestly don't remember if I was the one who first sort of pitched him on that, or if he and Brandon Moore were sort of taking it from that angle. But from the beginning, very mutually, that was how this project started. That it was, yes, we're going to make some cool merchandise, but more so than that, the merch is going to function to kind of serve as the funding for a major creative development project that's going to pull in artists from around the world.
That's awesome. So this is kind of a foundation that other creative endeavors can be built off of.
Yeah, and that we've already seen a little bit of that. If you look at the preview that's been out there for Book 5, the characters in that preview are wearing the outfits that came together as a result of this project, and that was really cool. But in terms of the actual process, I'd say it really started on on a character by character basis after I kind of pitched, here's what I think the line should be, and Brandon and Isaac came back with some modifications. Then we started the reference process. And originally, I thought it was going to work like it did for Call to Adventure, where I pull together art briefs where I'm pulling like a bunch of fan art or photo reference of actors or whatever to sort of say, hey, or some sketches developed at Brotherwise, like, hey, here's what we think this character looks like, circle what you agree with, and we'll go and try to make a miniature out of that. Isaac was like, no, I'm going to do this right. And he actually commissioned sketches that he put in front of Brandon multiple times before I ever saw them, mostly working with Ben McSweeney, Ink Thinker, who is now really a part of the in-house Dragonsteel team, but also some outside artists like Audrey Hote, who did a piece for Call to Adventure and has also done some Stormlight fan art. And she got pulled in to do a lot of portraits of characters. And then a couple of other artists, like Marie Seeberger, is the artist behind our design for Lift, which is really cool because I'm such a big fan. And so, yeah, that was, kind of getting these characters in 2D was step one. And then I worked with the artists on the Brotherwise side, the sculptors, like Leo Picorni, to actually bring these into 3D. And that creates some things and does some things that push a character in certain directions. And we sometimes see Brandon go, oh, I like this even better now that I see it in 3D. Or, oh, I like that you made Kaladin's jaw slightly heavier in this version than in the portrait. And that helped us arrive at versions of things that everybody felt really good about.
Excellent. I imagine that switch from 2D to 3D just brings in, I mean, you've got to put the back of Shardplay. I don't think we've seen the back of Shardplay before, so you've got to get that in there.
It's true. I mean, I will give credit to Ben McSweeney. I mean, he's really the guy behind everything you're seeing here. He was the one who designed the back of Shardplate, and I can show you an image here of the full turnarounds he did. So these are called controlled drawings, and you use them in animation or in toy design or in anything where you're trying to take something from 2D to 3D.
Okay.
And even with this, it isn't, you'll suddenly see something from a 3/4 angle where it's a little bit off, and things still need to be resolved. And the sculptors will be the first ones to tell you, like, sort of, oh, it's easy to do something in 2D, and make it look great, but then the 3D comes in. But I think, everybody involved in the process is really talented, but I might have to give kind of the most credit for the look of everything to Ben. And I'm sure there are still things where he's looking at it and going, oh, I wish they'd done this a little differently. I was going for that. But he did just such a fantastic job.
I am a big fan of Ben's work. You could tell he was very heavily involved because there was the sticker pack that they did for the Way of Kings, which came with all the stickers of all the characters, and so many of the design elements from that sticker pack I noticed in the models, like Renarin's scarf. I noticed was something in the sticker, and then it's there on the model. And I'm like, that's I like that.
And so
it's a good little design
that's just a fun tidbit is, sometimes we come up with a visual element like that, and then Brandon will then actually say, "Oh, I like that. Let me make sure that the next book mentions that Renarin's wearing a scarf."
Yeah.
And that doesn't happen a lot, where the books influence the art and then the art influences the books, but it happens. And it's part of. Brandon has said, like, seeing these characters has helped really cement them in his mind, and that's been helpful for his process as well.
I imagine, and that's a nice sneak peek for Stormlight 5 for people. Renarin will be wearing a scarf.
I don't know if I was cleared to say that. I'm going to be in trouble now. Oh, man.
So let's talk stretch goals for a little bit. I know you guys have announced Lopen as the first stretch goal for hitting the 1 million. And
what else could you want, really?
What else
I feel like we're done.
So I had a couple of questions. I know there was a town mini kind of floating around out there. I believe it's been added to part of the Secret Project Kickstarter swag bags. Is that looping back into the premium minis?
So yes, we're going to do a town mini, and something we actually mentioned in the. So the process behind that was we want to do something special for the people who already have invested in Stormlight in such a big way, and in Brandon in such a big way this year. And because as he said in his blog update last week, he knows it's a little cheeky to be going back to Kickstarter, but our project was actually something that was in motion before that one was anything but a twinkle in his eye. And also, this is such a good way to pre-sell things, to get a sense of how many of these things do we need to make, and then be able to make them as good as they can be because of that. That as Dragonsteel moves forward, something like, 2 Kickstarters every 12 to 18 months, I think is the plan moving forward. That there's something that's more of a book, and then something that might be a Brotherwise thing, or might be somebody else thing. And that's a way to do that moving forward. But for the Talon Mini, we wanted to put one of those in every Stormlight box, so that people getting that feel like, well, now I got to complete my collection and go get the other 30. But then also just to do something this way. And that will be available as an add-on in this campaign. So we haven't put that on the page, but when we're ready to reveal the design for the Talon Mini, which is still actually being worked on right now, then we will we'll include that as an add-on. So in backer kit, you'll just be able to say, give me a Talon as well.
Excellent. The Lopun, is that going to be added as an add-on, or is that being added to everyone's who's pledged?
That's being added to pretty much every pledge. So that's going into the Way of Kings pack. So if you get the Way of Kings collection set, that's a 7-pack now instead of a 6-pack, and it'll be right in there. And so I think we've got a couple of other stretch goals that are kind of like that. There are a couple of things that people have asked for in terms of people have actually asked for more add-ons. We've had a lot of people ask for more painted figurines. So that's something that those are a little more complex to put together than the miniatures. The tooling, the molding costs are more expensive. We need to make sure that they can be painted really well in a factory setting. So these things are a combination of hand painted and what's called pad printed, where very precise areas like a Bridge 4 patch or some of the facial details get applied in a way that's similar to the process for putting on details on like a Lego minifigure. While other areas are painted literally by hand. And so there's a limit to how many of those we can do and still adhere to the quality standards that we have. But we're looking at ways to make more of those available. And then just trying to make sure the quality is as high as it can be. Maybe see if we can put a couple other fun bonus things into the packs, a couple extra minis, that sort of thing.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think you guys put out an update recently regarding the increasing the quality of the material being used for them.
That's right.
Due to the level of pledge that people have put in there. So that's cool. That's excellent. Speaking of kind of the Kickstarter and the tiers and add-ons and things like that, there was some questions that were asked regarding kind of some frequently asked questions. And I know one of them was, the most common we saw immediately was, oh, what if I just want the Oathbringer box, or what if I just want the Rhythm of War box? And I believe you guys have changed something on how or clarified something on how the
so with that, we don't want you to, if all you really want is the Rhythm of War box, we don't want you to feel like you have to get the other 3 boxes. So if you buy at any one of those first 3 pledge levels, you'll be able to then get that number of packs, and then in the pledge manager you'll be able to choose which one you want. So if all you want is Rhythm of War, just back at the Way of Kings level and then choose that as your pack, and that's completely cool. As much as we can, that's how we'll be handling things in the campaign. And the other big one that we've seen a lot of, probably the second most common question, is what if I just want the painted figurines, or what if I just want the statue? And to do that, you just go select the $1 add-ons only pledge level, and then you can either just wait until you're in backer kit to add the extra funds, or you can write in the Kickstarter if you want to help us drive up those numbers. Then you can just put in that amount of money, like put in $50 in that add-on only's pledge, and then you'll have what you need to get that minis pack.
Ah, excellent.
And sorry if that's a little unwieldy, but one of the imperfect things about Kickstarter is the way that pledge levels are set up, and they don't want you changing pledge levels once a project is live, which makes it trickier for us to make these adjustments in ways that aren't a little complicated.
Yeah. It would be difficult to have every possible option as a tier you could pick. You'd have 30, 50, 40 tiers.
Yeah, because you have to scroll down them all, and so that's part of why we didn't want to put every permutation in. And right now, the way they're worded is, it's like, get this, and you get this plus everything in the prior levels. And so if we start putting something in between those levels, that will just add confusion. So yes, forgive the confusion there. Hopefully it will all be clear once people are in backer kit, which is a much better system for selecting things with drop-down boxes and choosing exactly what you want.
Yeah. What would you say was the biggest challenge you had going into like setting up the Kickstarter and getting it and putting it all together?
Like over the history of the project?
Yeah.
That's a good question. I would say, I think one big challenge for us is, how do we do this in a way that maximizes Brandon's involvement but minimizes the impact on his writing? And, as a fan, I don't want to mess with what we all adore about him, right?
Always a concern.
He is a writing machine.
Yeah.
and so that is something that, with that in mind, started early. And we know that we're only going to get our designs in front of him once a week on Thursdays, and that's when he can look at these things without messing up the rest of his schedule. For somebody who produces as much writing as he does, what else he manages to do in terms of teaching, in terms of additional projects like Moonbreaker, it's incredible how productive he is, and we understand that we have to integrate with that in a way that's very subordinate to that. And so that made things take longer calendar-wise than they might otherwise take. And we understood that going into it, but that meant getting all the designs ready for the Kickstarter was more down to the wire than it might have been otherwise.
Yeah, I was like, when you said that you guys are still working on the town design, I was like, oh, I thought these things would have been locked in, but if it's
yeah, it's right now. I'm thinking of adding a character who we don't even have concept art for, and that might not be possible. We might be at a point in a timeline where that isn't going to happen, but I do want people to know that the stretch goals are not. It's not like we have this list of like, oh, good, here's the stretch goal we just unlocked. We're actually we have unlocked a lot of capability to enhance the project, and we are very genuinely listening to what people are asking for. And there are things that were not on my list of possible stretch goals that we're going to do.
That's awesome. I was going to ask, how was the process of picking which characters you were going to make minis of? I know I think when this project was first announced, I think it was 10 minis, and now it's 24 plus Chasm Fiend plus the statue. And so, yeah, how did you make those? Decide who got what?
My job before I worked full time at Brotherwise was I worked at toy companies. So I worked at Mattel on lines like WWE and Masters of the Universe. I worked at a company called Spin Master on How to Train Your Dragon and Star Wars Robotics. I also worked on a bunch of preschool toys, launched a brand called Paw Patrol, went to another company called Moose and launched a brand called Bluey. And those are all things that kind of taught me how to structure a toy line. And so I built this very much like how I would have built a WWE action figure rollout, 10 years ago when I was working on that, and pitched it to Brandon. And I'd say, he definitely had opinions and moved around a couple of things, but from the beginning, the idea that the miniatures packs would be tied to the books was there, and the fact that we'll do multiple versions of somebody like Kaladin and single versions of other people, that idea was there. And I'd say the overall lineup started out, very close to where it ended up.
Okay, that's cool. I know one of the ones that I think people were, at least I saw a bit surprised, it was Via got a mini, and I was thinking, I was like, with Via getting a mini, and I think people were surprised that Relaine didn't. I think there's a lot of Relaine lovers out there, and I don't know if he's on the list of.
We've heard from some of those folks.
Yeah.
So we have, for me, probably one of the biggest characters not to get a mini was Sadius.
Okay.
I was a little surprised about that, but I'd say Brandon leaned a little away from villainous characters and a little away from spoiler alert. Dead characters.
Yeah.
So I think part of that's because in his head, like, he's going to use these to help visualize the characters as he continues to write, and so it's less helpful to have dead characters.
Yeah.
Even though there are flashback scenes and things like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd say those are both things. However, I would like to do more miniatures in the future, and at the top of my list would be a book 5 pack in the future.
Yeah.
Next up would be more kind of NPCs and adversaries, even like monsters and things, like White Spines or something.
White Spine would be incredible. Absolutely.
And then, like imagine this guy, but smaller.
Oh my god. He's massive. Oh my god.
So this is our Chasm Fiend.
Yeah.
And of course, White Spines and Chasm Fiends don't look exactly the same. But yeah, this is a big mini.
That is. I knew it was going to be big, but that is massive.
Yeah, well, on our page, you can see a lineup with one of our miniatures. This one's Navani, but it's Kaladin there, and then the Chasm Fiend, and then the statue is there. And because the statue is so enormous, the Chasm Fiend looks small, but the Chasm Fiend is not small. So I don't have a banana for scale here, but here's a ruler. So this is big.
I was going to say, I recently got into this year. I've gotten into painting minis.
And good timing.
It's very good timing. And so I'm very much looking forward to it. I think when that Chasm Fiend turns up, I think that's going to be the biggest mini I've ever painted. So it's
well, and it's not a super hard one to paint. It would take an expert to make it look incredible, but it's mostly black and violet, you know, and so probably the hardest thing about that is just how you balance lighter colored highlights on a dark surface. But and you could paint the whole thing black, paint the rock reddish, and
you're done, basically. Cool. Yeah. I was going to say, I imagine putting the highlights on all of the different segmented plates might take a while, but these things, they're cathartic to paint, so it's excellent. So speaking of potential future projects, I think I've seen this question asked all over the place. Is there going to be a game that we can use these minis for?
Yes.
Excellent. Can you say any more than that?
I usually like to elaborate, but I think I will be doing a live stream with Brandon on Tuesday.
Oh, excellent.
So tomorrow, and
Yeah.
so I would say people should check that out.
Cool. Awesome. Well, I'm excited to for that live stream. Awesome. Well, thank you very much for joining me today, Johnny. It's been a pleasure. The Kickstarter looks absolutely amazing. I can't wait to get these minis and start painting them. Anything you want to add to end on?
No, I mean, just that I have the coolest job in the world, and I feel very, very lucky to be working on all of this. I understand, I've worked on cool IP-related stuff for a lot of my career, but this is my favorite. This is, I have at various points in time been a huge Marvel fan, a huge Star Wars fan. I've been a huge D&D fan, very into certain things. I'm a huge Nintendo fan. Like, I used to write for Nintendorks.com. I for a while I ran the biggest Eberron fan site for that D&D campaign setting.
Yeah.
And so I'm somebody for whom fandom is a big part of my identity. And this is the fandom about which I feel most passionate. And so the fact that I get to actually literally meet with Brandon and work on these things is just crazy. It's awesome. And the fact that I get to do it all with my brother as my partner in this is even cooler. And I just hope that people trust that we're going to do everything we can to do it the way you would and to respect it. And Brandon could be working with any company in the world right now. Literally, some of the biggest game companies and miniatures companies have come to him and said, hey, let's partner. And he's working with us because he trusts us to respect the IP. And I think we're on a good, similar wavelength about how to handle things. And we're operating almost as a part of Dragonsteel, kind of Dragonsteel West. And so that's kind of who we are and what we're doing on this project. And we couldn't feel luckier.
I can imagine. Awesome. Thank you very much, Johnny. I imagine the Kickstarter will be closing
October 13th.
October 13th. So if you people at home, you want to get your hands on these minis, make sure you pledge. Thank you and goodbye.
Bye.